everybody, I'm Stacy with Stacy's Organizing and Decorating for Life. I'm here to help you organize your thoughts and decorate your perspectives. So today we're out here in the jungle. It was suggested to me that the background was too dark that I was using by somebody who's a professional in this kind of field. So I should have had them hold this camera for me though, because I'm holding this camera, but they aren't here, so that's okay. But I do take suggestions, and we're going to talk about that today, about how arrogance and humility play a role with honoring ourselves, selves, and soul. So if you like that that's our topic today, please hit the like and subscribe button below and stay tuned, Even if you're not sure if you like it, please stay tuned. Before we get started though, I want to welcome you back if you attend this channel every week. I do appreciate you. But if you're new to this channel, I have to let you know that I'm not a doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, or scientist, any of those things, but I do love those things, and so sometimes I may share what I learn about those things with you all. What I am is a life coach, and I have a web page called stacyforlife.com. On this web page, I write a monthly blog, and I invite you to check that out, as well as there's a description of the services that I provide as a life coach dealing with addiction, codependency, and grief, but not exclusively to those things, because underneath those things lies a desire for healing and healthy relationships, as well as development of spiritual and soul consciousness. It's really about going within and feeling comfortable in your own skin, digging that stuff up off of your soul so you can grow. So if you or anyone you know need help in any of those areas, please feel free to check me out once again at stacyforlife.com, or you can email me at stacy_reneeforlife@gmail.com. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to honor ourselves, selves, and soul. But how do we do that, We're looking at arrogance and humility because oftentimes when people are arrogant, they don't even know they're arrogant. I too struggled with this. One time when I was struggling in my life, I've told you all before, but if you're new to this channel, you haven't heard it, that I was struggling as a single mom and just having a time, meeting bills, transportation, all this other stuff that we deal with as single parents, and so I was talking to an old-timer, what we call an old-timer in the program, and I, was bitching, and she said, well, so how's your relationship with God? And I was like, I'm not religious, I'm very spiritual. But I was going to church, and I was ushering in the church, and I was learning so much about many different faiths, and so I was like, my relationship with God's just fine, And then she said to me, Stacy, that is arrogant. And y'all have heard, some of y'all, like I said, have heard this before, but I thought about that, and I thought, why is she saying that? And then I recalled, it was that aha moment. We all love these aha moments when you're sitting with somebody and you say something and they finally get it, And what I recalled was that if my relationship with God or my higher power was so good, then why was I struggling? If my relationship, is that the kind of thing that my higher power would want from me, is to be struggling like that? Was that their will? No, it was not. So that was arrogant. That was exactly what she was saying, because I was assuming, and we make an ass of ourselves when we do that, but I was assuming that I already knew what I needed to do and what it took, and that this was just happening, and that I didn't have control over this, that this was just happening. So that was what was arrogant. And, I was seeing myself as a victim, and how can a victim be arrogant? But to think that we know everything is arrogant. So the thing is most of us as human beings, we struggle and fight and deny arrogance. We say, oh, I'm not arrogant, blah, 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 just like I did when she said that. But what I realized, that arrogance is unteachable. There are many different traits in our humanness that display arrogance. Narcissistic has arrogance as an underlying trait, and really it's a fear that, it's another survival mechanism. It's a fear, when people are in insecurity and stuff, when people are like that, and when some people are arrogant and act like they know everything because they're afraid that they don't, and that's that polarities that we talk about. When we can accept and embrace as a human being, sometimes we have arrogance, just like a few videos back that I talked about the Dunning-Kruger effect. I think that was what it was called. Anyway, I've got the date down, and I'll put it in the comments below. It was like back in May 26th, I believe, and I think it was like the things that our mind make up, and it talked about arrogance in that video, as well as that Sometimes the arrogance is a learned behavior. And so all of us, when we look at it inside ourselves, so that's about, looking at the relationship between ourselves, selves, and soul. That's where this is going and coming from, too. Is looking at our relationship with ourselves, selves, and soul. Is to realize there was no way I could know how to handle being a single mom and all of these things without having to ask for help once again. That not complaining about my problems, but asking, how can I fix this? That's humility, is when we ask, how can I fix this? So being humble is being teachable and reachable. Being arrogant is unteachable and unreachable. So that's the difference. So sometimes when we think we're supposed to know things or that we already have things figured out, that's a sense of arrogance, is what I've learned. Because we're not in right and divine alignment. And this is the thing, when we're not in right and divine alignment, our soul is telling us. Most of us realize that, something's wrong. And we may just be complaining, but there's something wrong if we're complaining, right? Or we wouldn't be complaining. So our soul will be telling us, but sometimes in our arrogance, and it's just sometimes naivety, we just don't know. Just like I didn't know. I wasn't trying to be arrogant when she told me I was arrogant, but it was arrogance, thinking that I knew something, that I wasn't being teachable. So it's that our soul knows, right? You've heard it. Our soul knows. So sometimes when we're not staying in alignment and we're trying to do things our way, then we will get sick in ourselves when our soul knows, And so when we look at ourselves, selves, souls, and cells, then we can understand that relationship, And I'm not saying that all sicknesses come from something that we've done. I'm not saying that, because there are intergenerational traumas that we're now starting to understand, so it does go down genetically and in the DNA. And those are things, too, that we can heal and break cycles of. So all of this goes back to looking at our relationships, and oftentimes our present relationships have evolved somewhat from our past relationships, but we are humans on this earth, and we are so meant to continue to evolve. So it means continue in humility rather than arrogance. So there's no plateau we're going to arrive at until we're not here. So, once we get clear on that, then we can understand that this is a learning process and an adventure, and humility requires that. So I deal with people with addiction, codependency, and grief. And when you've dealt with addiction, and not everybody that I deal with is in that, so we're always looking at relationships, whether it's somebody in addiction or not in addiction. So we look at our relationships outside of ourselves, because if they're bringing us harm and unhappiness, then our soul is telling us, maybe this isn't for us, or maybe we need to readjust or readapt to this situation, which many of us are doing with these new things that we're experiencing this time, with the pandemic and everything else. So people are readjusting and readapting, and that, we need to keep our immune system up. So really the way that we think is really going to be helpful in that, and the way that we feel, but it means feeling our feelings. So oftentimes in codependency, we're feeling other people's feelings. And so we call it empath sometimes, but sometimes it's not empath. Sometimes it's just taking stuff on that's not ours. So when we look at ourselves, we can see where we might be taking stuff on that's not ours. And then we can get in alignment with ourselves. Our soul will be happy and we will adjust. But if not, our cells may get sick and say, and we know, most of us know, when we're going against the alignment, of what really is for our highest and best good. We know. But sometimes we keep trying to work it out our way, and that would be the arrogant way. So being humble and asking for help, sometimes it just brings that wake-up call of some small sickness. Like I said, there are intergenerational traumas and things that I think that we're supposed to adjust or adapt to, or change the cycle. In these disorders, we can certainly change the cycle. In disease, maybe we can't change the cycle in that. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor. But I just like to look at the relationships that go on between ourselves, selves, and souls. So I hope that this is making good sense to you. When I look at the arrogance, when we look at the arrogance again, I'm going to read you something by Galileo Galilei. And it's very, interesting, and it stuck out to me as far as like how we don't know when we're arrogant. And it says all truths are easy to understand once they are discovered. So we can understand our humility once we can understand our arrogance, right? Because I didn't understand humility till I understood arrogance. And mind you, I had been clean a good long while. So it's like understanding that I'm not evolved anywhere, that there's no place that I'm going to totally evolve to, that it's a continuing evolution, that I get to continue as long as I'm above earth to look at my relationships at different points in my life and at different things, and that it's not to be arrogant and find fault with or to shame and blame, but it's for me to live, love, learn, and grow, and it's for you to live, love, and grow. But once we do that, we can help other people heal their soul. You know what I mean? So, in honoring, I'm going to finish up here pretty soon because I am my own camera person and this gets tiring with my arm. But in honoring ourselves in our addiction, we're coming upon next month, and it would have been my son's 29th birthday, but I lost him when he was 18. So in honoring him, I didn't use. That was one of the things. And although when I got clean, that was one of the reservations, is that I would. So, I was very thankful to the people in the program, and that I stayed connected, and that I continued to have this humility to be teachable and reachable, because I'm grateful that I didn't find that there was a plateau and that I just didn't need to do anything anymore, because I have done that before and been batshit crazy. Because we all desire being around humans, although we may think we don't, because we just haven't learned how to interact with them in a healthy way that honors ourselves and others. So sometimes we have to have people teach us that. So I was grateful that I got a life coach through my recovery that taught me how to communicate, as well as my sponsors, that I had, especially one, that she helped me, and I now have a cool sponsor again. So I had to learn and be teachable through those people, and then in my codependency, I had to listen to a therapist tell me, Stacy, you're codependent, you have to go. I didn't know I was codependent before I was told I was codependent. And I had to be humble enough to seek help, because my relationships with people outside of myself weren't working. Because really I did want to hang around people, I did want to be around people, but I was afraid of people because I didn't know how to heal, myself. So when we're looking at ourselves, souls and cells, eventually you're going to have to heal if your cells get sick too, or not. It's up to you. It's just suggestion, because that's what confident people do. See, that's the thing, is humble people are confident, though it may seem like a paradox, but humble people are confident people. Arrogant people are not confident people. Humble people are internal. They go inside to see what's going on with them. Arrogant people are looking for the external to make them feel like their quality is there. Humble people know they have quality, and they don't have to brag or anything else. They're taking what's on the outside in. Arrogant people are taking what's on the outside. You know what I mean? They're just taking what's on the outside. Humble people are listening. Humble people are, participating. Arrogant people, it's all about them. And see, when we're in our codependence, that's one of the things I learned in my codependence, that I thought everything was about me. I thought that for other people to be okay, I had to be the one to be doing this stuff. So when we honor ourselves, we understand what we are capable of doing, what we have business doing, and what we don't have business doing. Because I've told y'all before, I learned in codependence what's my business, God's business, and somebody else's business. And then in the grief, the grief, no one can tell us how long to grieve. No one can tell us how to grieve, because our grief is personal, just as our love is personal, just as your relationship with your God, higher power, the universe, whoever you perceive that to be, is personal. All of this is personal. But we need help. It's a we thing. See, that's the thing with being humble, too. Humble is a we, and arrogance is an I. So in humility, we learn to ask for the help as in a we. That we get somebody else to help us process these things that we haven't dealt with before, that we don't know how to do. Just like when I was a single mom, I had to get people to teach me how to step out of my comfort zone, because comfort zone, that's really where I was in a comfort zone. And a comfort zone has a certain arrogance to it too, because we are in fear of stepping out. Arrogance is fear, and confidence and humility is a lack of fear. I mean, it's good judgment, but it's not poor judgment. And arrogance is poor judgment. Arrogance is a lot of judgment of other people. Humility is staying in our own business and really not trying to judge anybody else, but we have discernment as part of what I was calling good judgment, okay? So I hope that this video has been helpful to you today. I'm going to close with this reading from Peter in the Bible. And, I'm not somebody who reads, I like all paths, really. And I don't follow one path because I also dislike all paths, So that's the polarity of that. So I just think that God is individual, whoever you perceive God, the universe, or that to be. And I think that that's their relationship. But I think that everybody has something good. And so I'm going to read you something from Peter. And I think that this is what we all really inherently desire to have in our relationships. We just are arrogant at one part, which is our human makeup, and that fear to step forward and to be part of that, that we can honor ourselves, selves, and souls, So I'm very grateful to the people that have been on my path, who have taught me how to honor myself, who have taught me how to honor my addiction and not be caught up in it, that have been able to help me look at my relationship with everything, with all the stuff outside of myself, the drugs, the alcohol, the food, the boba teas, whatever it is that I can get addicted to, shopping, all this stuff outside of myself that I may get addicted to. I honor those people that have helped me develop and establish long-lasting relationships. Before I worked on, my codependency, my relationships, or before, my relationships used to suck. They would be good to last for 3 months. I have long-term relationships, now. I'm grateful for the people who helped me deal with my grief and process my grief. My grief is still my own. My grief is still mine, but I have a better thoughts and perspectives about my grief. I have a higher consciousness because of the consciousness is about connection, and connection is about reflection. So it's really cool. I love to do the play on words and everything, but I do honor your time and I value your time, and I do hope that this has been helpful to you, whether it did or did not rhyme. Okay, how about that? All right, so, I hope you all have a good rest of your week. Here's that quote from Peter I told you I was going to tell you. It says, finally, because we're humans, finally, all of you have unity of spirit. Because that's what humbleness is unity. Finally, all of you have unity of spirit, sympathy, and love for one another. It says you have a tender heart and a humble mind. Okay? And that comes from 1 Peter 3-8. Or 3, the thing 8. 3:8. So again, I'm going to leave you with this, because this is what we all want, right? Finally, all of you have unity of spirit, sympathy, and love for one another, a tender heart, and a humble mind. Okay? So it doesn't matter where it comes from, whether it's the Bible or somewhere else. That's what we all want, right? A humble mind and tender heart. I know that's what I want. All right. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a good final finish to your week or rest of your week, and that you enjoy the jungle. And I wish you much love. I have to use one arm today. And peace. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. If you have any ideas for topics, please feel free to email me or comment below. Stacy_Renee4life@gmail.com. You can also check out my webpage, once again, stacy4life.com. You can find me on most social media. Like my personal page on Facebook is Stacy Renee. You can find me at Stacy Renee on Twitter. You can find me at Stacy_Renee4life at Instagram. And I think that's about all. I have Stacy's Organizing and Decorating for Life too on Facebook, but most people just go to my personal page. Okay? All right. Bye.